Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Hello. Hi, guys. How was that? All right. So, welcome, Mumbai. I hope you guys had a nice breakfast, tea, and are ready for this awesome day that we have ahead of you. So, my name is Sharatchandra. I'm a field engineer at Unity, and I'll be making you guys go through the roadmap that we have. And to start off with, um, what we believe in is to make the world a better place with more creators in it. And that's why we believe in giving you guys the best of the tools possible. So the major features that we have in 2019 that are going to let you guys open up to the vast variety of things that we have in place is so we have a lot of things that deal with performance, with graphics, scalability, and platforms as well. So we have a lot of things like dots is one of our new features that we're adding in. We have a scriptable render pipeline. We have Tiny. We have our connected games network, and we have a new editor also that you guys will be able to see. So I won't be talking too much about dots because we have our field engineer Madhur giving a talk about dots a bit. I'd like to just brush on it a little bit so that you guys get to know what dots is. So the data-oriented tech stack is basically a hardware-oriented design to maximize your performance. All right, and how this is basically moving away from the regular object-oriented approach to Correct. From the object-oriented approach to our data-oriented approach, which is going to leverage a lot of things for it to be much more performant. So I guess everyone has seen the mega city demo last time in Unite, and that was purely built on the dots architecture, which let us. Um, guys, the screen is flickering out here. Right. So the megacity demo by itself had close to around 4.5 million mesh renders, and this was possible to instantiate at one point of time at one scene because of the fact that it was running on the dots architecture. Again, we had 200K unique objects per building, and we had close to 100K audio sources also running at the same time, and all of it was running on 60 FPS. Just because of the fact that it was running on the dots architecture. And ECS is the core for the future. So the core of dots is basically having three things in place. I'll be talking about it a bit later as well. So we have the job system, we have ECS, and we have the burst compiler, which is going to help you in leveraging a lot more performance on devices. We also have Project Tiny, which is coming in. I guess a couple of you have already tried out the preview version, which is available on our package manager. And the Project Tiny is basically built on the dots architecture by itself. And this leads to the size being really small, having really fast load times, smooth performance on each machines. And it's currently targeted for 2D, but we have support coming in for 3D and AR. Again, 2019.1, we'll be having C hash, 2019 in Q2, we'll be having the C hash preview. So we'll be moving away from the TypeScript that we are currently in. And then Q3, we'll be having instant game, and in Q4, we'll be having preview of 3D as well. Again, this is a timeline of the dots architecture, the dots system that is in place. And the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the scriptable render pipeline. The SRP is really powerful, and it can target a lot of things. Like if you want to have your custom render passes, you can use the scriptable render pipeline to basically do that. Currently, we have two specific templates that you can use, the HDRP and the LWRP, which is, so I'll be talking about LWRP in my talk a bit later. But the scriptable render pipeline is going to have a lot of things like performance, you have customized rendering, and control over how much resources are being used in your machine. Again, the graphics is, it's a really huge update to our existing pipeline. And in 2019.1, the LWRP has come out of preview. So it's basically out of preview, and you can use it for production. In 2019.3, we'll be having high definition render pipeline and for desktops and consoles coming out of preview as well. And this would be a universal pipeline. Again, building on top of this foundation, in 2019, we have shader graph, HDRP, the post process, HDRP for VR, coming out of preview. A couple of them coming out of preview, and a couple of them are still in preview, but they have been performance enhanced. And 2019.2, we'll be adding a couple of things like specular anti-aliasing to HDRP. And 2018.3, we'll be moving VFX graph out of preview so that you can use it for your production-ready games. Again, HWRP and LWRP are really cool. I think you guys might have seen the ray tracing, the real-time ray tracing demo that we had with BMW, and this was again done with our HDRP itself. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the connected games that we have. So we have a new architecture for the networking that's coming in place. It's a full stack real-time multiplayer support. So we have server hosting, we have dots networking preview. Again, the new dots networking preview is already out, so that you guys can check it out in the package manager. We have matchmaking, and we've actually acquired a company called Vivox, which helps you in voice and text chatting within your multiplayer games. Another thing that is really cool is I think a lot of people have been seeing the same view of Unity for a long time on the editor, and that's being changed right now. We have a new editor framework that's coming in place. It's really powerful, extendable as, you can extend it to whatever things that you need. And there are new authoring workflows as well that are in place. If you notice, a couple of days back, we actually released the new the UX pattern. So you can basically download that from the package manager as well and build new UI systems using HTML, CSS, and all inside the editor so that your editor tools and all are much better. Um, Again, this is like a summary of the roadmap. We have a lot of things in place. We have the editor UX coming in place. We have platforms improvements that are coming, XR improvements. We have AR Foundation that's coming out as well. And a lot of developer services for animation as well, 3D animation, and we have a new rigging system that's also going to come in place so that you can have 3D rigging also done. So working with Unity, what we believe is that you can actually build a solid foundation from prototype to production. So a couple of years back, a lot of people were using Unity just to build their prototypes and then build out their actual games using another engine. But right now it's become so solid because we have a lot of extendability into the engine that you can actually build out games from prototyping to production completely. And this is really cool because it's really stable right now, and it's easier. There's really less friction that's actually happening with what is running on your PC to what you have on your devices as well, and it's very easy to manage as well. Team licensing has also becoming, team management has become really cool because, we have a lot of things like team services in place so that you can actually connect to your Git and you can have a lot of people working together. I think a lot of people are familiar right now with the way our production is. So we have 3 versions that release, and then we have an LTS version that comes out in the end. This LTS version is basically going to be supported for the next 3 years or so. The next 2 years or so. So the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the Unity Hub. I think most of you would have installed Unity Hub on your systems, and this is how it looks. You have options to basically download different versions of Unity. So whenever we have a beta release, whenever we have an official release, all of it is listed inside the hub so that you can actually download that. But now we've overhauled it completely, and then we have version 2.1 in place. This also enables us to do a lot of things like having CLI in place. So command line interface is there, and you can basically run any commands through it as well. We have a new learn section coming in. So basically, you'll have smaller tutorials that you can run off of. And then we have a couple of new additions in place, which is to deal with the licensing and deployment. We have floating license that has been introduced right now, and this is really helpful for people who have larger teams. Let's say you have a lot of people working on shifts. A person comes in the morning, he checks into the license server. Immediately, that license is pulled up from the server, and then once he's done, it's given back to the server. And another person comes in the evening, and he works in the same system, so he can actually take a new license. So the floating license is really cool for larger teams, and it's really helpful as well. So you can contact us if for any more information regarding that as well. It's really good for closed network deployment as well. Again, a couple of overalls in the editor UI UX, in the UX and design side of it. We've improved a lot of core workflows, and we've tried to modernize the design as much as possible. What we heard was, we need more efficient workflows, accessibility to the editor. We need more performance and things like that. So to hear you out, we have a lot of things that have been added. I think one of them is the shortcut manager. So this it lets you create shortcuts, and if you see the video that runs on this, okay, you can see that creating shortcuts and having them in place is really simple with this new tool that has been added in. And it's really cool because it saves it all in a file. So you can basically take this file, you can put it onto another system as well. You don't have to reconfigure it again in another system. A couple of other improvements that are there is, we have improvements on the console end. Clickable stack trace is something that's really cool. So you get an error, double click on it, it immediately takes you to that specific error wherever it is. You have a lot of things like searchable logs as well in place. New asset import pipeline, which lets you do a lot. So you can have pre-import structures, post-import structures for your asset imports, and do on-demand imports. That is another important thing. Again, new editor UI UX UI theme is in place. So if you look at it, we've gone more dark right now. And apart from that, you can see a lot of improvements also in place. Components have been segregated very nicely, and they have been segmentized. So again, it's minimal design to improve the clarity again. And apart from that, almost every single thing has hover states. If you notice, this is a video of the new UI in place. You'll be able to see how clean it is and notice the improvements that are there as well. Then the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the quick search option that we have. So you can search through scenes, projects, menu, items, and create your own search as well. In development, you have asynchronous queries that you can actually do. The last thing again is Project Tiny, as I told you guys a little bit earlier. The new runtime and the workflow, it makes it really ideal and fast for the games to run. Again, downloadable, it's really accessible since the build sizes are really small. The core by itself is close to around 17 KB. You can see currently it's in preview, and you can see that the sizes of your builds are really compressed, and they load really fast and smooth as well. The editor experience has been almost the same as what we have with the regular Unity, because you actually download Project Tiny from the package manager, and you go into Tiny mode, which launches another editor, it's kind of a really optimized version of it. It runs completely on the DOTS architecture. The platforms, again, we've always been known to support a large number of platforms, and then we're striving to get even more platforms. And as soon as a platform comes in, we aim to support it from day one. So the current platforms that we already support are quite good, and we've got a lot of improvements on them as well. One really good thing is we have incremental GC coming in. A lot of people would have had a problem with the garbage collector, and the incremental GC is definitely going to help out quite a bit. We're trying to depreciate x86 architecture for a couple of the Intel x86 architecture for a couple of things as well. Again, DOTS runtime, as I told you guys, in the foundation, we're trying to get out a DOTS only standalone player, and which is really high performance and lightweight as well. On the mobile front, we have the SDK and NDK correct versions installed with Unity. You can actually have that in place from the editor itself. Vulkan optimizations are coming in place. We have shader keywords. And I think something that everyone's going to be really interested about is having logcat integration. So we have logcat integration, and it comes in exactly automatically when you click on build and run. It helps you in faster iteration, and we have a version, we have a different way in which only scripts can be patched from Android as well. To see, we have another thing in place, which is adaptive performance. So this is basically like, if an application really requires resources to be running, the application by itself figures out that these are the tweaks that need to be done, and it runs it. So that is something that is coming in 2019.2, which is going to be really cool for mobiles and web as well. Coming to consoles, in 2019.2, we'll be having the incremental garbage collectors come in for almost all the consoles. And in 2019.3, you'll have full release of HDRP for PS4 and Xbox One as well. Desktop, web, and server side, we have threading support for WebGL, which is again an experimental. And in 2019.2 or 2019.3, you'll be getting headless rendering support. Again, we are releasing IL2 CPP for Linux, so all Linux users will be really happy to have that in place as well. Coming to the XR side, we have a lot of graphics enhancements that are coming. So LWRP on VR is going to be full-fledged, and a lot of people will be utilizing that. In fact, LWRP gives you the access to shader graph, which is really cool for you to build your own custom shaders. And then we're building in support of Magic Leap directly. Then we have a couple of other things in place, which Vulkan rendering for the Oculus Go and post-process V2 support for stereo instancing, which is, I think, a lot of people have been asking about that. And then in the future, we have support for HoloLens 2 and HDRP support for VR platforms as well. In fact, HDRP is supported on the current VR platforms, but we have a little bit of issues because of the performance on it. So it will be rectified, and it will be coming out for VR as well very soon. Again, multi-platform XR input system is something that we're working on, so that you can basically build once and deploy to many. The next thing that I want to tell you guys about is the AR Foundations update. So there are a lot of things. So LWRP now supported on AR Foundation. We have face tracking in place. We have 2D image tracking, ARKit optimized object recognition, and the editor remote sessions also recording and playback is something that we are really looking forward to. So if you guys look at this video, this was from the GDC stage. And you can see that there are a lot of game objects running in the scene at one instance, just because of the fact that we are using LWRP, the dots architecture in place. So we have our hero character coming in, and this is possible just because of the fact that we have shader graph, and it was really cool to actually work with shader graph and AR right now. So if you notice, there are a lot of game objects that are being rendered on the scene, and this is all possible with the beautiful architecture that we have with dots. Right. And connected games is the next thing. So one large problem that a lot of people have had is actually getting their multiplayer content out. So being scalable is something that we really wanted to push in, and it should be real time, and it should have really low latency as well. So to fix that, we basically have a full stack real-time multiplayer system in place, which has our services running on one end, which is the matchmaking, player identity, persistent data, and then we have the multiplayer features, which is supported by one of our services. Again, we have hosting, again, scaling on it, and updates, pushing out updates also is going to be really, really simple with this. And we're coming out with, again, dots version of the networking, which is basically going to be really, really reliable, really performant, and you'll be able to do a lot, like bandwidth profiling tools will be given. IPv6 is supported on mobiles. And if you notice, there's quite a few things that are in place already in our multiplayer features, and those will be extendable again in the dots architecture. Matchmaking would be really fast, and it would be really consistent. Again, we are trying to bring in ways in which you can have your own custom matchmaking systems put up. In the end, I think I did mention about VVox quite a bit. So VVox is going to help you in your voice and text features. So basically, if you want to integrate any kind of voice mechanism so that you can have your players talk to each other, or have a text or a chat box in place, you can use VWorks out of the box. That's about it for now with the roadmap. I'd also like to mention to you guys that we are currently hiring as well at Unity India, and you can contact any one of our team members for any more information about it. Thank you, guys.